Hey travel friends! Today we're going to be talking about the pros and cons of traveling Ireland without a car.
In the past, when Barb went to Ireland with her family, she went around in a car. But this last time, when we went together, we went without a car. So a big pro of not having a car when you're traveling through Ireland is that you don't have to drive.
Most of the vehicles are manual. If you need automatic, you're paying a premium on top of that. When you get on those smaller lanes, especially if you're going to smaller towns, Ireland's roads are very thin. And a lot of times it's a little bit wider than one lane, but two ways of traffic. So there are some very tight corners, some tight areas next to stone walls that can just cause a lot of risk when you're renting a car and trying not to knock a window off or a rear view mirror off. So I think the benefit is just not having to deal with that additional stress while navigating these smaller roads.
Yeah, I think you can just enjoy the trek more when you're not driving. I would say that for me, I think the biggest con of not having a car when you're in Ireland is that there are schedule limitations, right? So there are timetables. You have to wake up at a certain time to catch a certain train or a bus, and there are connections that you have to wait for. So there's a lot of waiting and catching stuff that I would say, would interfere or could interfere with like the flow of your trip.
The next pro of not having a car is you do not have to park or deal with the limited parking availability, especially if you're going to be in these bigger cities like Dublin or even Galway. And then sometimes you have to pay extra at your B&B or your hotel if they happen to have parking.
So the next con of not having a car, and I would say this is like a really big con, is that there are limited routes. So if you're going to Ireland and you really want to do the wild Atlantic way, you need a car. You just can't do it realistically by bus or train.
Yeah.
So, there are limitations to the bus routes as well as the train routes. If you want to do Dublin to Galway or Dublin to some of the like major cities, then yes, you can very easily and quickly do that via the train. But some routes are, just limited.
Yeah.
So speaking of trains, a big pro of not having a car is that you can probably get from one place to another, at least if it's like a major city to another major city, via train in about the same amount of time that it would take you to drive. Their train system is very efficient, and a lot of locals use it. So yeah, I think the time saving is very comparable, if not faster by the train.
A con of not having a car and needing to use public transportation to get around is going to just make it harder to explore. So as you are going from point A to point B and you see a really cute little town, if you're on the train or the bus, you're just kind of like waving at it and it's continuing. Whereas if you had a car, you could pop off, have lunch, walk around a cute little town, pop back into your car and keep going. So having a car gives you the ability to really see those little tiny towns that most people might not be able to.
Yep, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Our final pro of not having a car in Ireland is that you don't have to pay to rent that car. Gas fees, mileage fees, the renting fee, insurance, right? You don't have to deal with any of that, right? You just kind of just pay for your bus ticket or train ticket, which we found to be very reasonable. And then you're off on your merry way.
Our final con is something that plagues me often, and that's going to be motion sickness. I would say more specifically with buses than with trains. When you are traveling to some of these smaller towns, you're going to need to use the public bus. And that is where you're going to be on a bus with a lot of people, and you can't stop.
I feel like the trains, you kind of have quite a good amount of space and they're comfortable, but the buses, a lot of those routes are very windy and also like this. So it can be very uncomfortable, especially if you're stuck there for hours at a time. Yeah.
All right, well, those are our pros and cons of traveling Ireland without a car. Let us know if you have also done that and if we missed any. Happy travels!